This is big breaking emergency news. We now have a FBI insider now issuing an emergency warning to the American public. He is warning that the U.S. is under siege, is under threat right now, and he is warning that this is being allowed to happen to our country. That's what FBI insiders are giving an emergency warning to the American public of right now. All right, so you need to be getting prepared. You need to be getting ready for what comes next. And he is warning what is happening right now and also what is coming next inside of our country. All right, we're also seeing mass releases of hundreds and hundreds of people being released onto the streets of America, busloads of people being dumped onto the streets as well. And they are reporting that this is due to funding shortages. So they are saying they no longer have funds to process people, these quote migrants, these illegal immigrants that are entering our country, most of them. They no longer have funds to process them anymore in our country, and we are now seeing busloads and busloads of people dumped onto the streets in places like San Diego, California. These are busloads of military-age men. They are all men. They are all in their 20s, 30s, and they are here showing up by the thousands every single day. And now in San Diego, California, they are dumping these military-age men in the middle of the streets. Okay, and they're saying this is due to funding shortfalls. They do not have the funds in San Diego to process these quote migrants at these migrant centers anymore. So now they're just dumping people off at these bus stops instead of at these quote migrant processing centers. All right, that's what's happening right now, and this is related to what this FBI insider just warned of. He's warning of that we could see major threats, and we are already seeing major threats inside of the US right now. And really quick before we get to that warning, please hit it up for me down there. Hit that like, hit that subscribe really quick if you want to get notified. I'm posting this news every single day and keeping you guys updated. All right, let's get into this warning that this FBI insider gave to us. All right, he is warning the American people that we are under threat right now, and we are under attack right now, and it's linked to our open border. It's linked to our open border, and we are seeing casualties in our country right now linked to this open border. Okay, just yesterday, a very sad situation, a tragedy happened at the University of Georgia. A young woman was taken, all right, and she did not make it, and she was taken by an illegal immigrant that's in the country illegally, and this woman did not survive, and the illegal immigrant has been arrested. This was a student at the University of Georgia. Very sad situation, okay? We are already having casualties right now. This was a college student, 22-year-old college student, and she has lost her life due to somebody in the country that should not be here to begin with, all right? And this is what this FBI insider is warning of. He was responding to this tragedy that's happening, and then he also said this, giving a warning to the American people. I want you to listen to him. This is former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker. All right, I want you to listen to what he said.
I mean, we have opened the borders to, and I'm not saying everybody that comes across the border is a terrible person, but there's a high enough percentage, the risk is so high that it's unacceptable. We're getting gang members from Venezuela. We're getting MS-13. I think some countries are actually emptying their prisons like Castro did in 1980 onto the United States. And they come from lawless places. They have no respect for the rule of law or police or authorities. And they pretty much do whatever they please. They live in an underground society. That alone, is a criminal act. I mean, everything's black market. So, criminals, spies, terrorists. And we just, it's a self-inflicted wound on this country.
Yeah, and
all right, that is what former Assistant Director of the FBI said, Chris Swecker. Okay, he said this is a self-inflicted wound on our country. This is being allowed to happen. And he also said, if you caught that there at the beginning of his warning, he said countries like Venezuela are emptying their prisons into the United States. They are having mass releases of their prisoners and allowing them to cross into our country. And this theory actually makes sense and holds up, okay? Because Venezuela has also just announced that they are no longer taking deportations from the United States. So they are no longer accepting deported criminals from Venezuela back to Venezuela, right? If you were convicted and sentenced to deportation to Venezuela, that's where you are from. In the U.S., they are no longer accepting deportations from the U.S. Venezuela just announced this just this week. All right. And a lot of times this is a major issue as well, is that these people commit these terrible crimes like this guy. And a lot of times they get off just with deportation and then they come right back. So get prepared, get ready for this to happen in your neighborhood as well, especially if you live in one of these, quote, sanctuary cities. Then you are going to see this happen more and more, where we just have mass bus releases of these, quote, migrants being released onto the streets of America because they can't handle it, they can't pay for it, for the funds, and this crisis is bankrupting U.S. cities, all right? They even have this article here. It says why the immigration crisis is bankrupting U.S. cities, and we know why. It's because they're paying for their housing, they're paying for the food, and paying for medical care for hundreds of thousands of people per city. There have been close to 10 million people that have crossed since Biden has been in, admittedly. Close to 10 million. Admittedly, the number is probably even higher. Okay, and this FBI insider, former director, warned that they are emptying their prisons. And he's saying it only takes a small percentage of these people being gang members, being part of these international FBI watch list groups, these criminal international groups. Okay, it only takes a small percentage of them to cause chaos inside of our country. And he's saying that there's a direct line between having our open border and these casualties that we are seeing inside of our country. And it's true, these people should not be here to begin with. If they weren't here, then these casualties wouldn't have happened. This very tragic story of this young woman at University of Georgia, it wouldn't have happened if this guy was not here to begin with, right? So this is what's happening in our country, and it needs to be shut down and it needs to be stopped, right? We also have these groups like the border vets, all right? That's what they're calling themselves. These are private groups that are now forming at the border, and they are putting up fencing and their own private border barriers and filling in gaps, right? That is what our country is coming to. We have to have private groups, and I'm not sure exactly everything this group does, but that's what's being advertised. They are putting in barriers and filling in gaps of these areas of the border where it's just wide open, because you will have a wall all the way up to next to a rock or something, and then there's 5 feet wide open next to the rock where they couldn't get the wall right next to it. That's just wide open, and people can just walk in. I've seen many videos of this, and they are filling in these gaps with their own barriers and their own razor wire, things like that. That is what private groups are doing, while our federal government is tearing down these barriers, actively going to the Supreme Court to tear down these barriers that are being built by Texas and by private contractors as well. All right, they're also installing new anti-climbing border walls inside California. Okay, they are putting up new segment of wall inside California and putting new anti-climb barriers on top of the walls so people can't climb over them. Even if they're high enough, they still can't climb over. It prevents them from climbing. All right, so this is happening every single day in our country. There are thousands of people every single day, hundreds of people showing up from countries like China, Venezuela, all over the world. Turkey, there's people showing up. Georgia, okay, all over the world, people are showing up at our border and walking right in, and it's a national security risk. So please hit it up for me down there, guys. Please hit that like, hit that subscribe. All right, it helps to get this message out, get this warning out. People need to know what's going on in our country. FBI insiders are warning that they are emptying the prisons into our country as well, and these gangs and these groups are trying to take over. So we need to be prepared. All right, so thank you guys. Hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.